Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for attending today's Shepherd Staff year-end webinar over the finance module. I am your instructor for today. My name is Sam Williams, and I have been a software support tech at Concordia Technology Solutions for about 3 years now. As a note, all phones and microphones have been muted. If you have any questions, type those into the questions window, and we will answer those questions at the end of the class if we don't cover them during the session. With me here today is our manager, Rod Kiles. He will be in the background today answering any questions. And if he doesn't get to some of those questions, we'll cover those at the very end of the session here today. Just as a note, all webinars are being recorded and will be available in our resource center, our CTS YouTube channel, and within your Shepherd Staff software for supported customers. Along with that, I'm actually going to put this in chat, but I'm including a link to our year-end Shepherd Staff document, and I have just sent that in there, so you should all see that in the chat window, and you can use that to pull up the article, print it. There is also a PDF copy at the very bottom of that article that you can use to then download it and just have a copy of it on hand. Let's go over what we are going to be talking about for the class agenda. So we're going to have an overview of just the year end, a discussion and a review, a quiz, then that Q&A session. And so we're going to have that year end overview. We're going to go over optimizing the database. We'll go over making a backup. Then we'll go over the finance module. Inside of the finance module, we're going to be covering budgets, the reconciliation, reports, and the year-end utility, and finally the cleanup utility, which is optional. Okay, let's get started. I am going to pull Shepherd Staff up and just minimize this. Okay, okay. So this webinar will be using the newest available version of Shepherd Staff, which is version 9.1. Users can update their software using the update utility if they are registered and supported. Users do not have to wait till after the year end to update. And to do just that update, you can either click check for updates right here. And as you see here, it says congratulations, you're on the latest version of Shepherd Staff. Or if you go up to utilities here in the upper right, you can say check for updates there. The year end utilities have been removed from all modules except finance. Since this change, just about all reports have dates, so users can run reports from previous years easily. Though each module does have cleanup utilities, none are required to move on to the next year. If users do want to purge data using these utilities, it will be a permanent process that can only be undone by restoring a backup. The recommended order for year-end tasks is contributions, attendance, membership, scheduler, and then finance. So we're not going to cover over optimizing the database. This is just a maintenance utility, and it should only be run on the main computer. And as it's being run, it should not be interrupted. All you'll have to do that is just go to the utilities here under the login screen, click optimize this database, and then we'll just say yes real quickly. And then it's done. We'll say the optimization has been completed. After that, we're just going to kind of cover over making backups, because with the year end, you want to make a backup before and after year end tasks for redundancy. The backup utility will only back up the current database. If your church has multiple databases, you guys must back up each database separately. We suggest using a separate flash drive. With the finance module, I'm just going to go to utilities here and go to backup this database. Because if you look here down at the bottom, I'm kind of going to hover around it quickly with my mouse, but there's an option here that says flag finance as being checked out, which you can run this when you make a backup. We're not actually going to run this today. But what it does, though, is if you guys have a separate computer where the person who does the finance, works on their finance separately there, what this allows you to do is you can check out finance from the main computer, preventing anyone from making any changes or adding new information in there while the finance person is using it. Um, and then what it will do is you can then, once they're done, they can then come back and then they can restore a copy of finance and then they'll uncheck that flag and then you'll be able to make any changes there. This is not required though, as an like when you're doing the year end or anything, it's just an option here. So, to make a backup, we just say you need to choose a location now, choose after clicking start backup, the last location used or a previous location. Just for this, I'm going to do last location used and say start backup. Okay, now that's done. I will then get logged in here. Okay, so now let's open up the finance module. So finance is the only module that requires running a year-end utility to advance the fiscal year, as it is the only module that needs a fiscal year. As part of the year-end procedure, what you'll want to do is verify all available checks, deposits, and journal entries have been entered for the year. Just as a note, if you still need to enter stuff for the next year but aren't done with your year end, you can enter in for example, 2025 transactions before running the year end utility for 2024. Uh, as they won't affect the current year balances or any of the reports in the current year until you move over to 2025. Um, Now what we're going to be covering over real quickly is how to enter budgets for income and expense accounts for the next year. So in the new finance module, what you're going to want to do is go to plan/analyze right here, as you can see me hovering around it. Once in plan/analyze, we're going to go to budgeting, which is just the default option here. Once here, and I think this is easier than how it was in prior versions, is there is this section here called a year, and it'll say, whatever the current fiscal year is. We can then just click on this drop down and then move it to the next fiscal year. And what you can do from here is, so with entering budgets, you can add and edit budgets at any time. And to do so, we're going to click edit right here. With the entering the budget, there are a few ways you can go about doing this. You can actually enter in a budget manually for each month if you so choose. And then if we press, we'll just set the calculation method to none, and we'll kind of discuss those calculation methods in just a second. But if I now press save here, it'll now show me whatever the total of the options I put into each month is here up at the top. So just to kind of go over those calculation methods, we have kind of 5 options. We can either do none, which you would only really do if you're manually entering in the budgets for each month. You can do equal monthly amounts. You can do based on the prior year actuals, based on the prior year budget. You can copy a prior year budget or copy prior year actuals. With the equal monthly amounts, I'm going to change this right here just to show this. But if your yearly total is not cannot evenly be divided by 12, what will happen real quickly here is, as you see, instead of the 2,500 I just put in there, now it's 2,499 and then 96 cents. Just to kind of resolve that, what you'll just have to do is change one of the month's balances to increase it by 4 cents. Once we do that, we'll then see our yearly total is the amount we wanted. And then if we just press save here, this will allow us to save our budget. And what you can also do from here as well is you can actually check this advanced on save option, as that will allow you to go then to the next fund. sorry, not next file, but next income account or expense account in your list. So you don't have to keep going in and editing each one of those manually. If you are going to do it this way, what I would possibly recommend doing is checking the sort by account number option right here. You see me hovering over it, because otherwise it will just be sorting it by the name of the account versus the actual number order. Um, so that is that for the budgeting. And we'll say yes, but now we'll see here, we have our budget here now in the system. After entering in the budgets, what you'll want to do, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be in this order, but as part of the year-end process, you are going to want to reconcile your bank accounts as much as possible. And to do so, what you'll want to do is go to Tools/Settings in Finance here, and then you'll go to the section here called Bank Statement. You'll then say Bank Statement Reconciliation. You'll then press Start. You then get the option to choose what bank accounts you have and which bank account you want to reconcile. But then from here, all you would really need to do is set the beginning date of your statement. And really for this, it would be whenever the first transaction was entered into Shepherd Staff. That shows up on your bank statement. So usually what we recommend doing is to just go back a month and a half. So if you're doing January, for example, you would say 12, 15, 2023. And then you would set your ending date to 1, 31, 2024. And then for the beginning balance and ending balances, those would be just whatever the beginning or ending balances are on your bank statement itself. And once you have those all entered in, and granted, I don't actually have anything here to show it, but I'll just say 6,000 and my ending balance is also 6,000. Because once you get a difference of 0, you can then just post this and it will clear all the transactions you marked cleared. So I'll just close out of here now. And after recovering over that, we're going to cover the reports you'll want to print out for the end of the year. So you'll print out at least these following financial reports. I'm going to go over each one of these. So the first one is the Statement of Income and Expense, which is the Treasurer's Report here in other reports. Usually by default, this Treasurer's Report should get you what you're looking for. And if we click Print, let me actually do this. I'm actually just going to go back to the prior year here. And let me zoom in here. But now we should see, our whatever the actual was for December and then the actual for the current year. There are a few different formats you can run depending on what your church wants. It's all kind of up to you guys, but here's just a list of all of the different formats we have. So we have a Treasurer's Report without budget, which is pretty much the same report we just saw, just minus the budget. Then we have the current month year-to-date budget remaining. This will kind of show you the current month, and then it'll actually show you the full year along with that. And then we just have current month, year-to-date, annual budget remaining. I won't go over all of these. I'm just kind of showing some of these as an example of what you can use. After the Treasurer's Report, what you'll want to run is the balance sheet, because this will just show you what your balances are as of the end of the year. So we can see what our initial balance was as of the start of the year, then we can see what our ending balance is at the end of the year, and then show any change between those two numbers. And after that report, what you'll want to run is the general ledger, which with the general ledger, usually all kind of depends on what you guys are looking for. There's two different ways you can run this. You can either run this as a summarized activity, which will just kind of show you some basic info and won't actually give you a really detailed view. If you want to see kind of everything that happened for all of your accounts, what we recommend doing is doing the detail activity. And for if you are going to use the detail activity, I would recommend checking the use year-to-date running balances. And just for this, I'm going to change it to 2023 just so we get some more numbers. And with this report, you will actually have to set your date range. So you'll just set it for the first of the year to the end of your fiscal year. And then what we'll just do from here is we just click print down here at the bottom. Okay, and this will just kind of show you for every account all of the transactions that happened to that account. And then we'll just show you based off the beginning balance, how things changed with each transaction. This will kind of let you just see all that info. Then this is an optional report, but you may want to run this as well just because with the treasurer's report, this report only shows your income and expense accounts. So if you guys have any dedicated accounts, you will most likely want to run the dedicated accounts report here, which if we just do print, this will just show us any changes that happened in the report. So it'll show for the month, any ins and outs, and then it'll show year to date ins and outs, along with showing the beginning and ending balance for each account. So with just all of the reports, you want to verify that the reports and account figures are correct. If they are not, make any necessary changes, then reprint those reports. Repeat this process until your data is accurate. Since we finished covering the reports, what we are now going to go over is the year-end utility, which to get to that, you will go to Tools/Settings here. With the year-end utility, we recommend backing up prior to running it. As part of this, the year-end utility will zero out all income and expense accounts. If you need to retain those figures, make the appropriate transfers. The same, this applies to equity accounts if applicable. So now let's run the year-end utility. And to do that, we will just click Close Finance Year 2024. We then press Start. And as this will get a list, are you sure? Closing the current finance year will change the beginning balances for several accounts. We recommend they make a database backup before continuing. Since we have one, we'll say yes, we want to continue. And so now it has moved on to 2025. If I open up the finance module, we'll see here now it says 2025. With the year-end utility, it takes whatever the end of the year balances are for your accounts and makes them the beginning balance. Each year has its own beginning balance. For this reason, we highly recommend that if a beginning balance is off, to use journal entries to make an adjustment instead of trying to edit the beginning balance manually. This creates actuals for the new fiscal years and locks the previous fiscal year. As I mentioned, it zeroes out all income and expense accounts. It's only the asset, liability, and dedicated account balances that are used for the beginning balances next year. If you haven't run the utility in a while, there's no problem with that. Just follow the checklist and run the utility for each year necessary until the year end shows the current fiscal year that you need to be in. And then after that, just to make sure everything looks correct, you may want to just run the recalculate beginning balances just to make sure everything looks correct there. And for that checklist that I mentioned, that should be on the year-end document I shared with you guys earlier on. So now what we're just going to cover is we're going to cover the cleanup utility. As I mentioned before, this is just optional. And if I click cleanup right here, so this is underneath other tools right here. And we just click start. We're not actually going to run this. Um, but as I said, this utility permanently deletes financial data. So we'll say yes. As part of this, this deletes transactions for fiscal years prior to, um, and you can say whatever year you want it to. But as I said, this will permanently delete all of that information from the system, and there'll be no way of getting it back without restoring a backup. Uh, as an option, you can also say to delete inactive accounts with no associated activity in any fiscal year. You can delete inactive vendors with no associated activity in any fiscal year. And then you also have the option to delete purchase orders from calendar years prior to a specific year. And I think that should cover it for the cleanup utility. So let me cancel out of here. We are now going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're just going to have a quick review over some of the year-end information. So review, form year-end in this order, contributions, attendance, membership, schedule and finance are independent and can be done at any time. Remember these basic steps, update and enter all data. This includes entering transactions and budgets, run any needed reports. This includes the balance sheet, statement of income and expense, and the general ledger report, the year-end workflow, make a new backup before completing each module's year-end task. This will give you a fallback point to go to if something is incorrect after running the year-end. Complete the year-end task for the specific module, then check your data afterwards to verify any changes. Make another backup when year-end tasks are complete. So now we're going to have our quiz, and I will pull up the first question, then we'll throw up a poll. So true or false, you can enter transactions for your next fiscal year even if you had not closed out your current fiscal year. So we go to tools, polls. Okay, it looks like most of you guys have voted. I'm going to end the poll. And the answer is true. Since all transactions have a date, you can enter transactions for the next year prior to closing this year's books. So another one is next one's a true and false as well. The cleanup utility should be run every single year as part of your year-end process. Okay, looks like most of you guys have voted again. I'm going to end the poll. And false. We advise against running the year-end utility. This utility deletes data from Shepherd staff, making it difficult to run long-term trending and analytical reports. So the next one's also true and false. If you select the option to check out finance when making a backup, only the finance information is backed up. Okay, it looks like most of you guys have voted again. I'm going to end the poll. And the answer is false. The checkout finance feature will cause a message to be displayed when a user opens finance, indicating that finance has been checked out, and any changes that are made will be lost when finance is restored. The backup utility always backups everything in the database. Okay, do you guys have any questions? All right, I am not seeing any other questions, so I will go here. So thank you all for attending today's Shepherd Staff webinar. We hope you enjoyed the session. If you have any further questions, please contact us at support. We'll always be happy to help. I hope you all have a good rest of your day now. Bye-bye.